that process will take, but I'm fully committed to making sure that the decisions are made in the best interest of the long term of the franchise. And that's really, really, really important to me.
Was there an understanding once Paul moved on, immediate understanding between the team and Russell that you guys would work on moving?
I mean, I think when these types of changes happen, like you're always first thing that I want to try to lay out is that conversations with players and agents happen all the time. Like these aren't isolated conversations. It's just because there's some event that takes place after the fact. I think there's a lot of attention paid to the fact that like there are these conversations are happening all the time at the end of the season, and it's very natural. We have good relationships with the guys. So, but when there's something like that taking shape with the franchise, I think you sit down, and I think it's a good conversation to have, especially with someone like Russell who has the tenure here. I'm pretty sure this is accurate, but I mean, I think there's only one player in the entire league that's still on the same team that they were on in 2012. Now that Russell is no longer with the Thunder and Mike Conley is no longer with the Grizzlies. And that just is a small glimpse. There's 400 players in the league or so, 450. There's one that's still on the same team in 2012. So Russell Westbrook has given a lot of time. In contrast to other players in the league, and especially what we've seen in the NBA just this summer. I mean, basically the All-Star team just changed jerseys, and so you're going to have that conversation with him. Again, I would say the same thing. How do we make it work for everybody? Obviously Houston was the place he wanted to go, and we were able to find a way to accomplish our goals and his. And if we couldn't accomplish our goals, we wouldn't have traded him to Houston. But we were able to find a way and communicate through that process to get that to happen. But to answer your question, you sit down, where are we going from here? Where are you with things right now? And I think he and the organization came to the same conclusion that, hey, if there's something that makes sense for everybody, then we'll look at that for sure. And we're fortunate that it worked out the way that it did.
Sam, has Billy Donovan met or exceeded expectations as a player developer? And if not, does he still have something to prove going into the final year of his deal?
Well, I would say, for us, player development has really been the lifeblood of our organization over the course of time. I think that, in recent years, we've obviously been in different stages of that, but with respect to Billy, I do think the players have come along under his watch. I think Terrence is a good example of that. I think Jeremy is a good example of that, and then there's probably some more as well. But I mean, player development is to me an organizational effort, and everybody has to be invested in the development of a player. Most importantly, in my mind, is you have to have a growth mindset with player development. Whether you're a coach or you're athletic performance director or you're director of medical or whatever role you play, that you have to see things for what they can be and not for what they are. And I think that's the ability to stay with that and have a process that can get you to the vision of the player, I think Billy's done a good job with that. I think he's gonna have more opportunity to do that going forward with some of the new additions that we have.
How do you see Steven Adams' role going forward? Obviously, opportunity knocking for a guy who's been on the cusp of being a star.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think there's opportunity for everybody on the team going forward because there's I think that there's the story of next year's team is completely unwritten, and I think that's kind of the it's kind of the intrigue to me is to sit back and watch this collection of players and how they come together, and I think that I think a player like Steven I would hope continues to get better. I've said up here, I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over again with him, but he's taken small steps forward. Every season he's been here. I'd expect him to do the same next season. And maybe there's some things that obviously there'll be significant changes, like our two best players are not on the team. So, I mean, everybody's game should change, in some way, shape, or form. And where that goes, I mean, a lot of that's up to Steven, and a lot of that's up to the coaches, and I'm excited to watch the development of that.
And if the team...
Russell sits up here, or he sat up here, and we asked him about Billy and his relationship with him. And, these guys they come out here, they're going to say they have good relationships. I mean, even dating back to Kevin, how do you feel like the respect level is with those guys, those all-star caliber guys, Kevin, Russell, Paul, Carmelo Anthony, when it comes to Billy?
I mean, again, you're asking me to provide answers from them, which I can't do. You'd have to ask them that question. I would think good. I mean, based on the way that what I've seen, but I mean, I can't speak for them. I mean, you'd have to ask them those questions, but I have no reason to think that it would be otherwise.
Sam, if everything were to come together next season, good health, great development of players, you guys win 52 games, will you be thrilled by that, or will you lament not having ping pong balls in the lottery?
Yeah, I think that's the unique situation that we kind of sit upon, is that we're able to accomplish a lot of the value generation that's absolutely imperative for this franchise going forward in these transactions. Simultaneously, we're also able to get good players. Not only good veteran players in Gallo and Chris Paul, but to get Shea is a big deal, for us. And so we feel good about where we're positioned. But I would also tell you that we're not looking at this is in one season increments. Like, obviously the most important season is next season, and we want to maximize that season the best that we can, but not at the expense of continually and aggressively making sure that we're repositioning and replenishing the team so we have a platform and a runway for the next great Thunder team to take shape. That I don't think those things are mutually exclusive.
We still haven't gotten a chance to talk to you about Darius Baisley and Lou Dort. What stood out to you about them, and what do you see their roles being?
Sure. I mean, with Darius, we're really excited about him because he has a couple things that, to me, make him unique. One, his ability to handle the ball at his size is really, really unique. And defensively, he's got great range for a young player at that size as well. It's going to be a process with him. We'll have to be patient. We understand that. But at that range of the draft, to be able to get a player that has those ball handling skills at 6'9" or 6'9" plus is pretty unique. And so we felt like that was a good investment to make it, in the early 20s. And again, like I said before, like, we have the ability to take a longer view, and we like that challenge of having a player like that in the program. With Dort, again, he's a player that just has, incredible physical gifts, and is a potential to be, I think, a really good defender. But he's going to need work and refinement, and I think he's extremely motivated. He's an extremely high character person, very humble, and I'm excited to see kind of how he progresses through the season. So both of those guys are guys that we're excited about adding to the team.
Sam, does Billy's job get easier going forward from here? I mean, I know he has just a year left on his deal, but you talk about continuity, and Billy's had ever-changing rosters and having to fit ball-dominant guys together. With the roster you have now, and potentially in the years going forward, does his job get easier?
Well, I would say that just the job of the NBA coach, just by mere fact of what you've seen over the last several years, every team is dealing with constant change. It's become almost, I think, to not have a lot of change or disruption from the player movement perspective would be more the exception, to not have that. So I think that's a challenge every team is facing. And at the same time, it's also opportunity, So do I think his job gets easier? I mean, I think it's an incredibly hard job, no matter what. I mean, that job for any coach in the NBA, it's being a head coach is a tough job. But I think there's different aspects of that, I mean, every year presents different challenges, presents different opportunities, and I think he's equipped to handle really all of them.
Should fans expect to see Chris Paul here for a long period of time, till December, till end of the season?
Honestly, Dean, I can't give you a forecast on how many years or anything like that, especially after we've some of this transition we're going through right now. But I would say that we're excited about having him here. He's excited about the opportunity here. And I think he has an opportunity to really impact the team in a positive way. What happens 2 or 3 years from now, again, I hate to keep coming back to this, but what used to be 5 years in the NBA has become 5 months in the NBA or 2 years in the NBA. I mean, predicting anything beyond 2 hours in the NBA and what it's kind of become and evolved to, I don't know the answer to that. But I do know that I think he's going to have a really good year for us, and I think that he's excited about the opportunity to have an impact on the team.
What do you think about Steve Kerr's comments about guys asking out of contracts? I think 1 year, I guess you could say, gives a team a chance to trade with 2, 3 or more. He says it could be a danger to the league. What do you think?
Well, I mean, again, I'm not gonna jump into the middle of that. I would just say that Adam has spoke on that, and he said that it's something that has been happening in the league for years. And he prefers that it happens behind closed doors. And I think we all know that the downsides that it can have, but at the same time, there's nothing preventing a player from requesting that. And so at the end of the day, you just have to figure out the best way to deal with it. I think when something becomes adversarial, and it's involving your, someone that's driving the number one aspect of your business, that can have a pretty negative effect on your product and your long-term outlook. I don't believe that was going to be the case with Paul George, just because of who he is, in my humble opinion. But I can't speak for everybody's opinion in the league. I just don't see anything right now that's preventing that from happening. And, unless you want to just, it's something that really Adam has to answer to. Our job is to adjust and adapt with the circumstances that come our way.
There was reported discontent with Russell and Paul.
I'm sorry.
There was reported discontent from Russell and Paul in the offseason. From what you know, where does that discontent stem from?
I mean, again, I just can't get into whatever the speculation is, or I just could tell you this. I don't know how many people in the NBA are contented at the end of a season. And I don't know what the discontent is referring to. I don't know, is a pancakes not fluffy enough, or we're not winning enough games? You're not giving me anything to really work with. Other I can tell you, those guys are great guys. We're going to have conversations with those guys at the end of the year. When you don't reach the potential that you think you have as a team, there's going to be frustration, of course. But I think all systems were going into the season, and we're excited about it. But that's just not the path that it took, and I feel really good about the way that we were able to handle that from that point. But this comment of what you're referring to, I don't know what that means, and I don't know how many. I don't know how to categorize that.
Sam, could you,
Two more for Sam.
could you expand on Shea a little bit, a guy that young becoming a starting point guard for a playoff team, and a lot of people think he has all-star potential. What do you and your scouts think of his game?
I mean, we're really excited about him. I mean, I think he's not really even scratching the surface. As I said earlier, I think he's got tremendous makeup, and that's a big, I think that's going to be a big accelerator for ultimately how good a player he becomes, and I think he has that. He's got great size and great length, and he's a sponge. He's a sponge, but like we've seen this take place before in Oklahoma City. Like if you think about the differences between players in year 1 to year 3 or year 2 to year 4, I mean they're drastic. If you just think about the jump that Terrence Ferguson took from his first year to his second year, or Steven Adams or Dre or down the line, you have to be able, in my opinion, to be able to see things through. And I think where Shea is today is it's not close to where ultimately he's going to be. But we have to be really patient with that process. But he's got great tools, and he'll have to follow the same track that a lot of these other players have. And but we think he has a bright future.
Sam, the topic times today, do you have any further sense of maybe his availability at the start, at camp, or with time it was?
He should be on track for the start of the season. Like I think I said the last time we were together. I'm really excited for him. I think he's, obviously he's chomping at the bit to get back on the court. He's such a big part of winning, in my opinion, because he does all the stuff that doesn't show up, in the box score, except for the opponent's score. But he doesn't get attributed for that. But he's I'm excited for him. He looks good. We've taken a very conservative approach with him, and we want him to start the season in a good position. And I think he's on pace to do that.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.